how did you introduce Lady Gaga to the world? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so managing Eve, we were able to build this cool company, and we got a call from somebody I knew that saying that they wanted to buy the company, and it was my first sort of real check at the time, and I had a small, a growing family, a young family, and I'm like, okay, this gives me the opportunity to get some liquidity, but also selling it to a publicly traded company who had Guns N' Roses, Destiny's Child, Elton John, and so we sold the company, and 2 years in, it was like, what did we do? Because that's when I learned about culture and the importance of like having a culture that matches up.
You were stuck in some corporate thing.
It was very corporate, and I felt disconnected from the clients. What I'm really good at is working with talent. What I'm like, this isn't what I want to do. Like do spreadsheets all day and numbers all day. Like my energy and my superpower is working with talent. And so we were able to get out of the deal. And when I got out, I was starting this new company. And unfortunately, Eve came in and said, you know what, I think I'm going to go in another direction. And so it caught me off guard, both, financially and from a business standpoint, that I didn't have a plan B. I'm thinking we're going to start fresh, build a new company. And so I was sort of left with no money after the transaction because it wasn't, after I bought a house and paid taxes or whatever.
They didn't take care of you that well.
Yeah, it didn't turn out to be that great of a deal.
At least you got a house though.
I got a house out of it.
That's useful.
But the house almost went into foreclosure because it was 2007. The world's falling apart.
Wow.
Starting this new company, my cash went into starting this new company.
And you have young kids at home. That's a little stressful.
Young kids at home, private school. Couldn't pay tuition, couldn't pay like a lot of important bills. And so it was one of those moments where I felt like the world was crashing down.
Yeah.
And it's probably the first moment in my adult life where I felt completely stuck. Like I felt completely stuck. And, over the next year, within that year, a friend of mine introduced me to this young artist from New York who he had flown into LA. And, she walked into my office with, these big glasses on and, fishnet stockings and introduced herself as Lady Gaga. And we hustled for like a year trying to get a deal and record.
It took like a year to get someone even like a radio station in Canada even play your song, right? They wouldn't even play it.
It was very, very hard.
This is amazing. Like when I see these things, kind of probably like how people see my companies, they probably assume it's just all of a sudden a hit. They don't realize you got to work really hard and everyone assumes you're going to fail. But I had no idea because Lady Gaga seems like such a talent. Why did it take a year to get them to play your song?
And what I noticed in the music industry, it's like when you do something that's completely different is both generational, like you build generational artists when you can really do something that's never been done before, but it's also the hardest thing to actually do. That's why you see a lot of talent that sound alike, look alike.
They copy each other.
Yeah, everybody copy each other, because it's much easier. When you're doing something like a Lady Gaga, it's like you got to change people's perception of what a pop artist is. And at that time, pop music was closer to like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, and she came with this sort of European sound in music.
She broke the mold in so many ways.
It definitely did, and you had to convince people, and you had to find who's that one person that would take the chance of playing this on the radio. And it was a small station in Canada that happened to play it, and that sort of, yes, we made it.
Awesome. Tell us a little more what happened as she scaled. Like what were a couple of other big breakthroughs for her?
I think it was the beauty with Gaga and with myself. So what a lot of people don't know is like when I met her, she had just gotten dropped from her record label. So she was on Def Jam Records. And so her dream was to become this artist. And then all of a sudden, the rug gets pulled from under you, and it's like you have this deal you dreamed of all of a sudden goes away.
You guys had that in common. You both had just gotten smacked by
Got
reality.
smacked, and it was like both of us had something to prove. Both of us had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And it was this bond that brought us together. And she believed in me just as much as I believed in her. And the reality was, after getting fired from working with a artist I was close to for all of those years, and going through this thing, you know, at home where like my self-confidence was like, I'm doubting myself at that point, because I usually have figured out, and this is the first time I feel stuck. So she helped build my self-confidence by believing in me, and I built her self-confidence by believing in her. So it was like this sort of mutual partnership, and it's like us against the world.
That's
and
amazing.
I would knock down walls, and like, you know, our mutual friend Matt would say, drive a Mack truck through a cul-de-sac, do whatever, you know, for her, because she believed in me that much and I believed in her that much.
He's doing pretty well now. He's in Austin too, you know.
Is he in Austin now?
He's crushing it. He's at government stuff. Doing a good
Oh
job.
man, I gotta reach out to him.
Yeah, reach out. Yeah, he's doing good work. So tell us. Well, again, I want one more story with Gaga. Like what? This, you worked so hard. You guys both coming from nothing, and all of a sudden you were winning. Like when did you know you'd really made it with her? When was it like, oh wow, this is big?
So the first tour, which a lot of people don't notice, like the first tour was she was opening for New Kids on the Block.
Huh.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Nobody knows, because
Yeah.
like our thing was, we're gonna take whatever we can get.
Of course,
so it's a
yeah.
New Kids on the Block reunion tour.
That's funny.
And we ended up begging for this spot on New Kids on the Block, and it's in this arenas, and it's sold out. And the first reaction I saw from the crowd, because they didn't know who she was, I'm like, this might work. Like, you know, I'm seeing people pay attention, because usually with the opening act, people are getting beers and like, you know,
they're
talking
ignoring
to
it.
each other. And then so when we decided to do our first club tour, which is probably 200 seats, I swear to you, Joe, I'm riding down Wilshire Boulevard, you know, past the venue, going downtown. The show was that evening, and I'm riding past going downtown, and I saw these kids sleeping outside on the sidewalk. And they had the makeup that she had in her music video, like lightning bolts.
Wow.
They had the lightning bolts, and they were dressed like her. And I'm like, this is special. Because if you could get kids to sleep outside at this early of a stage,
That's a big.
is a big deal. So I'm like, if I could get 200 people to do that, can I get 2,000 people to do that? If I could get 2,000 people to do it, can I get 20,000 people to do it? And so, you know, and just kind of built on top of it.